Since the early days of the sport, some of climbing's greatest moments have come from its rivalries. Whether it's the bitter hatred of Royal Robbins and Warren Harding tackling big walls, or the more friendly nature of Chris Sharma and Ethan Pringle projecting Jumbo Love together, head-to-head showdowns have always created a little bit of tension and excitement in a sport that's usually so individualistic. Climbing competitions by nature tend to breed rivalries all the way back to Lynn Hill and Catherine Destiville. Heading into the Olympics, I would say that the main showdown on everyone's mind is Tomoe Narasaki versus Adam Ondra. There are a lot of storylines between the two of them. New school versus old school climbing, technique versus explosiveness, the greatest climber of his era against one of the best competition climbers maybe ever. Looking into the near future, though, the rivalry that I'm most excited about doesn't involve Adam or Tomoe. In fact, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Olympics. The rivalry that I'm looking forward to, and the one that I think is going to breed the most exciting storylines in the coming years, is the five-way showdown that's brewing in the women's lead climbing circuit. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the women's lead competition and specifically 5 up-and-coming climbers who I think are going to make it the most exciting event to watch in the next few years. Before we do though, I'm now officially a real YouTuber, and that means we have to talk about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Bold Beta Designs. Bold Beta is a clothing and accessory company by climbers for climbers. Beyond selling products, they also enable climbers to make some side cash through their Belay Partner program, which is a system where climbers design t-shirts and Bold Beta then takes care of the manufacturing and shipping to help sell them to the climbing community. To learn more about them, go to the Bold Beta Designs website via the link in the description, and while you're there, check out their current products and use the code Ascensionism at checkout to receive 15% off your order anytime in the next 2 weeks. Now, there are a lot of really talented climbers out there, and I don't want to take anything away from them or have anyone get mad at me because they're not mentioned in this video. Everyone on the IFSC circuit is a world-class climber in their own right, and they could all win on any given day. When I look at the current roster though, 5 names stand out to me as climbers who I can't wait to see develop in the next few years, and those are Yanya Garnbret, Lara Rigora, Julia Shanerdy, Chyenne, and Imori. Each of these 5 have shown the potential to be, or already are, a generational talent on the lead wall. The fact that we have 5 of them together at roughly the same ages competing against each other though is so exciting that I just had to make a video on it. So without further ado, let's take a look at the 5 climbers who I think are going to define the sport for years to come. When you talk about women's competition climbing, there's one name that immediately comes to mind, and that's Yanya Garnbret. There's a good reason for this. Yanya is an insanely talented climber who's good at all 3 disciplines and has dominated the World Cup in a way that's completely unprecedented even for climbers like Adam Ondra or Chyenne. It's no secret that Yanya's style is built around her height, strength, and explosiveness. While those traits are often associated with boulderers, Yanya is a world-class lead climber with 15 gold medals to her name. She likes to climb fairly quickly, but she still has really good stamina and rarely seems rushed. She has very good technique and never really tries to force anything. When she should move statically, she moves statically, and when she needs to be dynamic, she's really comfortable being dynamic. Her finger strength is also insane, and about once a competition, she likes to pull out a swing like this just to remind us all how good she is. What's more, she's done all of this at 22 years old. She could theoretically keep up this level of dominance for the next decade if it weren't for the slew of insanely strong youngsters who are starting to come up behind her. First up is Chyenne. In fact, I can't even really say that Chyenne is starting to come up behind her because she beat Yanya out for the lead title in 2019 after an absolutely insane run of dominance in what was actually her debut season. Chyenne has a very different style than Yanya does. Although she's only an inch shorter, she's a lot more flowy, which makes sense when you consider that she's being mentored by one of the greatest technique-based climbers of all time in Chyenne. She likes slow, efficient movements and using her flexibility to stay static on the wall. What's interesting is that she's about 10 centimeters taller than Jane, or about the same height as Yanya. This actually makes it easier for her to stick with these static movements because she doesn't have to jump to compensate for her lack of height in the way that shorter climbers sometimes do. Already, it's been a lot of fun to see these two go back and forth with their different styles. Sometimes Chyenne's staticness pays off, as was the case in Chyenne 2019. Other times, Yanya's explosiveness wins, like in Villar's of the same year. Considering that 2019 was Chyenne's first year of competing and she already did so well, I really can't wait to see how she continues to grow and get stronger. While 2019 may have been Chyenne's breakout year, 2020 belonged to a different climber, and that was Lara Rigora. At 20 years old, Rigora sent waves across the climbing world when she became the second woman ever to climb 9B. A month later, she rocked up to Briançon and beat out Yanya to claim the gold medal in the lead event, firmly putting her name in contention for the best female climber alive today. You can see how Lara's outdoor experience influences her competition climbing. The basis for everything she does on the lead wall is her insane endurance, and she likes to take her time to find the most efficient way through a sequence. She also has very active and very high feet, and she's a big fan of using heel hooks to help her with long reaches to compensate for her height. Another thing about Lara is the fact that despite being pretty new to the professional scene, she's a really clever climber. Briançon 2020 was a prime example of this, where she used her balance to get secure on this volume, and then, instead of making the risky jump for the final hold, just clips from down low to lock up the gold medal. Lara has, in my opinion, the best overall accolades of anyone in this video when you take into account all areas of climbing, but there's someone else with some pretty impressive outdoor feats who's got all the potential in the world when it comes to competition climbing, and that's Julia Chyenne. Now, I know that Julia has yet to fully put it together when it comes to indoor climbing, and she hasn't always looked like the same person who crushed Eagle 4 to become the third woman to ever climb 9B. This isn't super uncommon. Margot Hayes and Stefano Gisolfi come to mind as great red point climbers who don't necessarily thrive in competitions. With Chyenne, though, she's had some flashes of brilliance that show she can hang with Yanya and company. When she's at her best, she looks like the perfect cross between Lara and Yanya. Tall and rangy, with enough strength to power her way through sequences while never becoming over-reliant on her dynamism. I think her route reading is really the only thing that holds her back. She sometimes makes the moves harder than they need to be, draining her energy down low and leaving her tired for the head wall. If she can acclimatize to the indoor style and get a little more comfortable on siding routes, though, Julia Chyenne can be a threat for years to come, and I can't wait to see her continue to develop and get more comfortable indoors. In terms of development though, she's not actually the climber who I think has the most room to grow. That goes to the youngest person on this list, and maybe the one with the highest potential, and that is Imori. Despite only being 17 years old, Imori has already shown that she's a real threat on the competition climbing scene. I would say she falls into the same category that Julia is currently in on this list. She doesn't have the same accolades or podium finishes as Yanya, Lara, and Chyenne, but when you watch her climb, you can't help but feel like she has the potential to be something really special. Aya is a master of using her feet and hips to compensate for her lack of height on big moves. Specifically, she heel hooks all the time and she's really good at it. She'll often do a hand-foot match with the heel and use it to hold her hips in place on the wall, helping her reach statically for holds. Here you can see she actually moves her hand off the best part of the volume so she can put the heel on it, helping her to secure the position. What most impresses me about Imori though is her composure. She's so young to be competing on such a big stage, along with the added pressure of being from the country where climbing gets a lot of media attention. Despite this, she has a remarkable ability to hold it together on the wall. She did this well in Toulouse and again in Villar's, but where this composure really stood out to me was in the Hachioji lead finals. Imori didn't win, sure, but just try to imagine what this situation was like for her. 15 years old, at the biggest climbing competition to date, competing in front of a home crowd with an Olympic qualification on the line. Mori got off to a good start, but then she read the sequence completely wrong and had to reverse a couple of moves before making a really tough heel hook to pull through. She looked completely pumped after that, and with the exhaustion plus the pressure of the moment, I fully thought she was going to fall off on this really big Gaston. Instead of falling, Imori showed exactly why I'm so excited to see her continue to grow and develop. She invented a rest out of nowhere, punched through these crimpy moves and a tough clip, and fought her way to a third place finish in what was an absolutely amazing bit of climbing for someone who isn't even old enough to drive. She's yet to claim a World Cup victory, but Imori has shown that she has all the tools to dominate for years to come if she can get past the 4 other climbers who are all entering into their primes and getting better with every competition. Like I said in the intro, rivalries are what define this sport. Not knowing who's going to win on any given day adds a level of uncertainty and excitement to the competition scene, and the more climbers compete against each other, the higher the stakes get and the more the storylines grow. Right now, we're privileged to have perhaps the greatest climber of all time, along with a couple other generational talents and one of the most unique climbers we've ever seen, all vying for the sport's inaugural gold medal in the men's field. This is obviously amazing, but it won't last forever. Adam Ondra, Alex Megos, and Jakob Schubert aren't getting any younger, and while there are some incredible athletes coming up in the male competition scene, I don't really see anyone who's poised to take the torch from them while they're gone, and that's okay. Athletes come and go, and all we can really do is enjoy them while they're here, which is why I wanted to make this video and bring attention to what's going on in the women's lead circuit. The next few years look like they're going to be an absolute treat to watch, and I don't even really care who ends up being the best out of them. I'm just insanely excited to be able to see 5 incredibly talented athletes continue to grow, develop, and compete against one another on the biggest stage that the sport has to offer. Alright guys, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all getting outdoors more now that winter is over, and I will see you next time.